We are back for our first live meeting in Weyburn Council Chambers. Tonight we have Councillor Ben Betchew is here with us, Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Bailey, myself, Mayor Roy, Councillor Richards, Councillor Chessel. Absent from here is Councillor Mickle tonight. The first thing that we are going to start off, and our regular host of all of our city management that will be assisting us in the meeting here this evening. Approved, the first thing, we will have the approval of the minutes of regular council meeting on strategic planning priorities meeting held June 8th, 2020. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. There are no, we'll move forward. Public hearings and notices, none. There are delegations, proclamations, petitions. We have tonight, we have Director of Leisure Services, Andrew Crow, giving us an update on our recreation center. If you would, please, sir.
Thank you. Nice to see you all in person tonight. So this is just the fourth update that I'll be giving on the WRCC project as we move along through. Some major milestones since I was last here presenting to you. We've completed the outdoor rink excavation and base work. All the interior concrete slabs have been poured. The masonry block wall, both internally and externally on the building, is nearing completion. Should be wrapped up very shortly here. The exterior wall panel for the majority is installed. Our indoor synthetic floor base work has been completed. Lots of electrical components and equipment installed and roughed in throughout the building. Mechanical equipment has been put in place, so they're just going through the process of getting that all hooked up and ready to go. And you'll see a lot of, you would have seen a lot of exterior metals go up around the building, so we're nearing completion with that. So upcoming to the project, hopefully to be completed before the next time I give an update. We're going to see some major progress on the exterior earthwork, the grading and rough landscaping of the property, both on the school side and the WRCC side. Parking lot construction, asphalt and concrete pours will begin shortly. The exterior building on the WRCC side should be closed in completely sometime soon. Mechanical, electrical, and HVAC installations will be continued. We'll see some major progress in the interior framing and wall installations throughout the interior part of the building. And the interior, a lot of interior windows and other finishes will also be added to the project. So as mentioned during last update, we took out a lot of our out-of-contract items. A lot of items we took out of contract so that we could control the purchasing of them, so that we were able to guarantee we got the product that we wanted and we were able to procure the best pricing as possible. So there's a lot of items that are kind of on the go right now. Our outdoor rink and board package is currently out for tender. We hope to have that installed by September of this year. The indoor play and climb structure RFP is currently in design. The multi-sport simulator selection is in the RFP design stage right now. Our spectator bleachers have been purchased. The score clocks have been purchased. Multi-purpose room equipment, we're starting to figure out what we need for those rooms. The pottery studio equipment has all been purchased for the new building. Art gallery equipment is yet to be purchased. Our sound security components, office furniture, building maintenance equipment, and other miscellaneous equipment is still yet to be purchased. So we're going to start working through those things here in the near future, and then there will be a lot of these items that we wait until near the end of the project to purchase, just because we need to move them in place. So as far as the timeline, as of June 22nd, we're around 65% complete the project. That's based on actual costs of the project. So we're making good progress. We remain in budget and on schedule to open September 2021. This was an area of concern with the COVID-19 pandemic, but Wright has done a very good job keeping their groups mobilized and moving ahead with the schedule. So we'll just we'll look at a few photos around the building here to give everyone an update on where we're at. So this is the front of the building. So this is going to be the entrance to the building. Over here are the offices. And then in the bottom picture, you see this is the art gallery portion with another entrance over on the bottom part there. So this is your front desk office area. So these are the administration offices in the back and a staff room. Then right here in this open area is going to be the front desk. So we're starting to see some definition of the space pop up. This is the entrance to the art gallery. Will be right here. So you can see there's a break in the roof here. So that actually allows people who are on the walking path upstairs to look down into the space. It's going to be pretty remarkable when it's all finished. So they're making progress on that. There's a curator office in the back and the permanent collection room in the back as well. And you'll see through all these pictures, there's quite a bit of mechanical infrastructure that's been put in place. The sprinkler system, that kind of stuff is really starting to take shape. This is a view from the hallway looking at the multi-purpose room. So this is a room, that's a room. And then they have the skyfold doors internally, so you can open and extend from one room to turn it into one giant room or have 3 individual rooms. Just gives us more options. So this is the mini gym area. So not much change since the last update other than the concrete pad is now poured. So as they start catching up in other areas of the building, they'll start addressing this area as well. And then a look at the simulator room. Unfortunately, I don't have an up-to-date photo, but the only difference is this is the hollow core without the concrete pad poured on place. The rest of the room remains basically the same. So this is the play and climb area looking down from the second floor track. So you can see we have ample space in here to put in a very large piece of equipment, and we can go very high with it. So we should be able to find a really awesome piece of equipment for the kids that they're really going to enjoy. And then I'll also mention this is all going to be glazing, so this will all be natural light filling the space as well. So this is the synthetic turf field, so they had to dig out about ½ a meter of fill and fill it back up and get the base that we need to give proper foundation for the field that will be on the site. Once they are done this work, this backside will be closed in, and then the building will be, well, closed in. So this is the walking track landing from the main floor. If you go up our main set of stairs or up the main elevator, this will be spectator seating down the side, walking track around both sides, and this is a warm-up area, as you would see here. So left to go, be framed up in the second floor, some washrooms and maintenance rooms. This is the exterior part of the building on the east side. So these are all of our change rooms. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 change rooms right here with access to the outside of the building, as well as an officials room further down. And this is the base that the skating rink will sit on. So you'll see piles right now around the rink, and those are going to be lights, so it'll be lit up with 8 light fixtures at night, so playing into the evening isn't going to be a problem. Of course, we will have timers on these lights, so we'll be able to shut them down to avoid activity taking place too late into the night to avoid noise complaints. And then this is just a look at the facility from the north side from our soccer field. So you'll see things are starting to come together quite nicely. And as I mentioned, as soon as they are done with the prep work for the turf, they will close in this part of the building. And we'll see some more progress. Are there any questions about the project to date?
The field, will it be a cement base or just a gravel base?
No, so we chose to go with just an aggregate base, and that was just based off of dollars and cents. We saw large savings by avoiding pouring a concrete pad.
And there's no issue with that for the...
No, as long as we have the proper structure underneath it, the proper base work is completed, we shouldn't see any issues. If we ever start to see any sinkage or anything in the field itself, we're actually able to pull that field up and fix it up and then put the field back down.
Andrew, thank you for this pretty impressive building for us here in Weyburn between the school and our center there. Two things. It's great to see at this stage that we're still on time and still on budget. That is very appealing, I think, to everybody. I seen one of the pictures of the walking track there, and I just realized that's fairly wide up there. Is you know.
Yeah, so this is probably the picture you're referring to. So it's kind of, you are going to have some bleachers here that are about 3 to 4 rows deep, and then this is going to be walled off. But it is 3 lanes wide, I believe.
Sorry?
Three track lanes wide. So if you were to see an Olympic track, it would be the width of 3 of those wide.
Okay.
So there is quite a bit of room for people to use.
So the contractor then, to get through this and keep this motivated and on time with our COVID incidents here, must have gone out of his way to make it happen, and congratulations to him on that, or that contractor on that.
Yeah, they really were flexible with their planning and were able to adapt along the way. We were really lucky too. We only had a few items that were interrupted at the manufacturing stage, so they were able to just kind of work with their schedule to adjust along the way and keep things moving forward.
Yeah, with the project this big, you'd always find something to do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Reports of standing committees. Mr. Van Betju, Police Commission.
Thank you, Your Worship. A regular meeting of the Weyburn Police Commission was held in Council Chambers 4 p.m. Tuesday, June 16th. First item on the agenda was Mayor's Report. May 2020 in comparison to May 2019, crimes against person decreased from 8 in 2019 to 6 in 2020. Property crimes increased from 30 in 2019 to 33 in 2020. The most significant change was in criminal code violations related to Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, where in 2020 there were 5 violations and in 2019 there were none, with 7 incidents of drug versus the 5-year average of 1.2. Calls for service included tickets written, as well as is slightly up, but not significantly. The board received the Council Payable report for May 2020. The 2020 budget to the end of May is at a 41.66% spent. So this is just slightly above budget, but it should come into line going forward. CSO report. The board received the CSO report for the month of May 2020. Chief Blunden advised the CSO is participating in the community by assisting with the free lunch program, grad committee parade, attending senior care homes, and assisting other members. In the bylaw report, the board received the bylaw enforcement report for the month of May 2020. These reports were all presented and passed. Unfinished business, social media policy. Chief Blunden provided a revised social media policy as per the board's recommendation for the board's review. Mayor Roy advised that there is still a vacancy of 1 member at large on the board. Council suggested that they would consider reducing the number of members at large requirement on the board from 4 to 3 Mayor Roy advised that to reduce the number on the board, the police commission bylaw would have to be amended. Board members present stated they were support reducing the members at large from 4 to 3 on the board, as they feel the present number is working well. In new business, Chief Blunden provided the board with a business plan to assist in the drafting of a strategic plan for the Weyburn Police Service. The board moved in and out of camera for a number of items, and the meeting was adjourned.
Questions? Seeing none, we'll record that as accepted. The consent agenda, that may I have a motion to accept all these, the water treatment report, the fire department report, cash activity report, and building report, please.
Your Worship, I'll make a motion that the items on the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moving forward, accounts payable. Do you have a motion there?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to move that the purchases in the amount of $1,570,000, 408,000. Let me try that again.
Okay.
Too many numbers first time back. $1,570,408.62 from June 5th to June 18th, 2020 be approved.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moving forward, waste and wastewater RFP, if you would, please. Jen?
Yeah, so the city has budgeted for water and wastewater infrastructure improvements for 2020. We broke it into 5 categories. Hydrant replacements, we have 5 different locations at a budget of $35,000. Street valve replacement, 5 locations, a budget of $35,000. Sewer service connection replacement, there's 6 locations at a budget of $45,000. Manhole refurbishment, there's 15 locations at a budget of $63,000. And then catch basin repair and installation, 6 locations at a budget of $25,000. So on May 29th, we put a request for proposal on SAS Tenders and city website. RFP was divided into the 5 categories mentioned above, and potential bidders were allowed to bid on any or all of the parts. Quotations were received on June 15th, and we had a total of 5 proposals were received. They're summarized in the table there, and as you can see, they kind of broke up on what they chose to bid on. So for parts 1, 2, 3, and 5, the lowest bidder is the best option for the city. For part 4, manhole refurbishment, Torrent Energy Services submitted the lowest bid. They are offering a manual application for repairing the manhole locations, and the city has had better success with spray-on sealant applications. It provides a longer-term solution and potentially requires less maintenance, so this type of application is being offered by the second lowest bid, Jordan Excavating. So administration would like to recommend 4 different recommendations. It's recommended that parts 1, 2, and 4 of the water and wastewater infrastructure be awarded to Jordan Excavating of Regina, Saskatchewan. Recommendation 2 is that part 3 of the water and wastewater infrastructure contract be awarded to Advanced Sewer Restoration of Weyburn. Recommendation 3 is that part 5 of the 2020 water and wastewater infrastructure contract be awarded to Torrent Energy Services of Weyburn. Recommendation 4, it's also recommended to expand the scope of work on parts 1 and 2 to utilize the full budgeted funds. And then the conditions would be as the cost detailed in the conditions stipulated in the RFP.
Do you have a motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the bids for the 2020 water and wastewater work in the city of Weyburn be approved as follows. Hydrant replacement, Jordan Excavating, $18,020. Number 2, street valve replacement, Jordan Excavating, $18,947.50. Number 3, sewer service connection replacement, Advanced Sewer Restoration, $31,348.44. Number 4, manhole refurbishment, Jordan Excavating, $44,520. And number 5, catch basin repair and installation, Torrent Energy Services, Inc., $11,576.47.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Seeing none, although we are going, I guess there was a question about that number 4 on there with the manhole and doing a spray instead of hand applicating. Lowest bid is not always possibly the best way to go on that. If you would explain.
Yeah, so we contacted our utilities foreman as well as Phil, the other engineer, and we discussed it and went back to both Torrent and Jordan to see their application. And based on the fact that it is a manual application, in the past, we just find that they don't hold up as well. And so we have more repairs further down the line.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Very good. So that will move forward and we can get those repairs underway as the summer is wasting away here. Or waning away, I should say, not wasting, but waning away. Second, 2020 Asphalt Paving RFP. Go ahead again.
Yeah, so the 2020 asphalt and paving recommendations. So once again, this is broken up into multiple parts. The first one is First Avenue Southeast repair. So we will be completing a water main installation along First Avenue Southeast between 3rd Street and 4th Street. Following this work, the city will require a contractor to repair the extent of the roadway affected. There's approximately area of 2,250 meters squares of roadway that would need repair, and this is budgeted at $144,000. Part 2 is the airport runway rehabilitation. So in 2019, it was determined that the main runway has severe cracking in several sections spanning the entire width of the runway. So we identified 21 separate areas of transverse cracking. And so essentially, we need to mill the existing asphalt, compact base material, prime and repave these isolated sections. Overall, it's required for about 1,050 meters square. This has been budgeted at $145,000, and this project has been approved through the Community Airport Partnership Program to provide funding for the improvements to a maximum contribution of $72,500. The third part is the service road asphaltene. So this is to pave the service road from 3rd Street to the Sioux Line Museum. This extends a paving approximately 190 meters east. This perimeter has already been curbed, and it requires a total area of 2,450 meters squared, and this was budgeted at $250,000. So the fourth part is trails paving. So we presented a length of trails to be resurfaced south of River Park. And we're looking to recap the extent of existing walkway. And this is about 812 meters squared. The trails renewal was budgeted at $75,000. So on June 2nd, we had a request for proposals posted on SAS tenders and city websites. Once again, potential bidders were informed they could bid on any or all the parts. We received quotations on June 16th, and 3 proposals were received, as listed below. So our recommendation in this situation is parts 1 and 3 of the 2020 asphalt and paving contract be awarded to Genco. Is recommended that parts 2 and 4 be awarded to ASL Paving of Regina, and then it's recommended to expand the scope of work on parts 2, 3, and 4 to utilize the full budgeted funds.
Do you have a motion, please?
Worship, I'd like to make the motion. I'd like to make a motion that the bids for the 2020 asphalt and paving work in the city of Weyburn be accepted as follows. First Avenue repair, or to get Genco Asphalt Incorporated for $116,258.15. Number 2 is the airport runway rehabilitation, be awarded to ASL Paving Limited for $89,874.75. Number 3, the service road asphalting, be awarded to Genco Asphalt Incorporated for the amount of $107,775.50. And fourthly, the Trails Paving be awarded to ASL Paving Limited for $16,697.97.
Second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? First up, Mr. Bailey?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Jennifer, just on the airport one, I see that it's quite a bit under budget of what we had. The 145 was, I believe, budgeted. The 72,000, is that infrastructure grant of some kind?
Yeah, so that's through the CAP funding, and so when we applied for the funding, we would put in that our budget was 145,000, so they will give us up to 50% of what we spend. So if we don't
Okay.
spend 145,000, then
So
we
our-
wouldn't get the full 72,500.
Good. So our bid on that is, where is it here, 80, almost 90,000, so we'd get 45 instead of the 72.
Yes, that is correct.
Still helps like crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Van Betchu?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, Jan, I was just wondering, like parts 2, 3, and 4, you suggest using the additional funds to expand the scope. So how would you expand the scope on the airport and the museum roads? I don't.
So the airport, we would go back and we identify issues that maybe don't have as severe of transverse cracking that wouldn't have been identified in that initial part. So we would go back and do another inspection of the airport runway, and maybe there's other sections that we would improve upon. For the museum road, we would actually look to see if there is any additional roads in the city that we need repair or paving on. It wouldn't be that road particularly, it would be a different road. And then on the trails, we would look at expanding on that River Park Trail there, keeping it in the same area, but we would just probably do a longer extent of it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Next one, tax enforcement. Laura, if you would, please.
Right, so as per Section 24 of the Tax Enforcement Act, I'm presenting a letter to request consent to title from the Provincial Mediation Board to go ahead and give notice to request consent for title. There are 6 properties. They've already received their 6-month notice and have not paid the outstanding tax balance. So these properties will go to the Provincial Mediation Board. But with that, since we have given a extension on taxes and are not applying interest, we're also asking that we can extend this to November 1st so they can have more time to make payments.
You have a motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. I'll move that the recommendation of the Director of Finance to delay the submission of the properties listed in her report for the Provincial Mediation Board for consent of title as set out under Section 24 of the Tax Enforcement Act due to COVID-19 pandemic be approved.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Questions? Mr. Van Betchu?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm going to guess, Laura, that us delaying this because of COVID-19 still fits within legislation that's been approved by the government?
Yeah, it won't make any change to asking for consent. We can just delay it.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no more questions, call the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Fleet storage building tender.
Okay, so fleet storage building. So this has been a project that we've been looking at for a number of years already, and we've been in the design phase for roughly a year and a half. So the need for a fleet storage building was identified back in 2013. Currently, this is the facility that Parks and Works uses to house all of their equipment. Specifically in the wintertime when the weather turns on them. Summertime, they expand outside. So the building we are currently making use of is the old Roundhouse building, a former CP rail locomotive shop, 100+ years old, and it's in tough shape. So they currently have 16,000 square feet. As I mentioned, over 100 years old. The building is failing and becoming a liability issue. We actually have sections of the building that are closed off to the employees because we've deemed them unsafe to be in. We also have some major leaks in the roof that are beyond repair. Actually, when it rains outside, it rains harder inside at times. So as I mentioned, in 2013, it was determined that we need to replace this building soon. It was included in some long-term plans. So going back to October of last year, I believe it was, we decided to hire McGinn Engineering to help us with the final design of this structure. So they took on the structural, the architectural, the mechanical, and the mechanical engineering roles on the design. Within their team is Rittenberg Electric Engineering, and Macabrota has done our engineering for the geotechnical, the ground conditions and whatnot. And spearheading our team or supporting us is our project manager, Midgard Project Management, who we are also working with on WRCC. So as I mentioned, this came up back in 2013, and there's been a lot of work done to it. We contracted Midgard in the early stages in 2018 to help us through the project. From there, we hired a few other engineering firms to get us through some base designs. So we actually looked at 4 different building types, including metal stud, wood pole, conventional steel, and pre-engineered steel. And we looked at a total of 8 different floor plans before we came up with our final design. How we established the need for square footage and the design of the building is we actually took each piece of equipment that we have in our fleet, as well as 4 future pieces of equipment that we can see us purchasing in the near future, getting those dimensions and actually fitting them to a floor plan. So this is the final design that we are proposing for construction. So it's just over 33,500 square feet. There's room to house 44 specific pieces of equipment, and that includes 4 expansion pieces. It's designed to ensure the ease of access of equipment, so there's lots of doors around the exterior of the building, so that we were able to double up our parking to really save square footage. A lot of the time, Public Works needs this equipment in the middle of the night in what they consider an emergency situation, and they need to get in, get their equipment, and get out. So efficiency was what we looked at throughout this whole design, which is why it took us 8 different floor plans to get to our final proposed design. So within the space, there's also a dedicated workroom down in the corner for different miscellaneous projects, whether that be building picnic tables or working on small equipment. There's flex space so that we have the ability to add more pieces of equipment, or if we have something rented and need to tuck it away, we can use this flex space, or we can use it for other jobs as we see fit. And then there's also a wash bay section in the building so that they can pull their fleet right in, wash it off, and then either pull around to their park job or come back to park by their designated spot. So this building is also engineered for expansion in the future should we need it, so we'll be able to hold up to 60 total pieces of equipment. The structure is a pre-engineered steel design, as we found that got us what we wanted in the most cost-effective way. So it is designed to be a 50-year building, so we wanted to do it properly, and we wanted to give ourselves lots of flexibility into the future. So here's a site plan where it would be located on the yard. So up here is the existing fire station and works building. So you go to the west part of the yard, and the main access will be this northwest corner. So doors around the outside, large doors at each end for larger equipment or to pull in. And for expansion in the design, it was decided the most practical way to go would be south on our property. So there's structure there that we could actually add a full bay, so this little outlined area. So this project, as I mentioned, it was noticed in 2013, the need. A needs assessment was completed in-house with the superintendent, the engineer at the time, the leisure facilities department, along with some help from external engineers. The design team selection was done in August 2nd, 2019, with the approval being October 15th, 2020. So at that point, we were then able to put our drawings all together. As you see, we move along through a lot of different estimate periods along the way, up until April 21st, where we put an RFP out for contractors. So basically, pre-qualifier for contractors to apply to get a chance to bid on the tender. So within that, we had 18 proponents initially submit, and we narrowed it down to the top 5 proponents based on a scoring system. So on May 4th, our 100% drawings were completed, and we are now at the stage where we've gone through the tender, started on May 11th. The RFP was posted on the 12th, and we are here today hopefully to approve award on the project. Upon award, we would work out our contract with the winning proponent, or the awarded proponent. We hope to commence construction in July of 2020 with completion being March 2021. So about a 28 to 34 week project to get it up and ready to use. So as I mentioned, following a pre-qualification process, the top 5 rated proponents were invited to take part in the tendering process for general contractor services for the construction of the building. This tender was initiated on May 27th and closed on June 18th at 2 p.m. And our top 5 proponents were Dura Construction, PCL Construction Management, Wright Construction Western, Westridge Construction, and Graham Construction Engineering. So there was quite a spread between the low and the high bid, but all within reason. So following my presentation, my recommendation will be to award the general contractor services for the construction of the fleet storage building to Dura Construction for $3,610,000, excluding applicable taxes. So this brought the project budget, the complete project budget, after you factor in taxes on the construction, as well as the professional fees that it's taken to get to the finish line here, and then a contingency, you're looking at $4.74 million. Due to the lower than estimated construction cost of the total project budget is actually $250,000 below what we had budgeted in 2020 to complete the project. So we were able to cut down on our costs quite significantly from the initial design estimate. And it actually has come in under the expected budget amount. So we would pay for this project through the use of internal loans and through the recently released MEEP grant that the province has committed. So the city of Weyburn gets an amount based per capita for a total of $1.56 million. So the process would be to use that grant funding for this project. The unfortunate thing with the fleet storage building is grants don't pop up for this type of project too often. It's not a wastewater project, it's not a recreation project. So if we have the opportunity to make use of a grant, this would be a great time for it. So that's the fleet storage building where we are at now. I'm sure there are some questions.
Do you have a motion?
Yes, Your Worship, and I have a question or two after. Move that the bid of Dura Construction, Regina, Saskatchewan to provide the services of general contractor for the construction of the fleet storage building at a price of $3,610,000 or $610,000, excluding applicable taxes, to be accepted.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion, Mr. Chesson.
Yes, so just, I guess, 2 questions, Andrew. Are we handling the demolition of the existing building ourselves, or are we?
So right now, we need to use that building for another year. So that's actually factored into the long-term budget in 2022. There are a lot of unknowns with that building, so we have to get some thorough inspections on what we're dealing with as far as building material. There is some quality structure and components to that building, so we would save as much as we could. But we have to establish what we're dealing with before we can determine if we can do it in-house or not.
And then also, wasn't there some gas line that had to be moved and a few pieces like that? Were they factored into this budget?
Yeah, so we've been in lots of communications with Sask Energy. They're actually scheduled, if this does go through the award, to start their job on July 6th. They're allowing us to supply an operator and a backhoe, and actually, once the line is capped off at the north edge of the property, we're able to assist on that to remove it. So that'll save us around $10,000 on the project, and then the rest of the gas line install will actually be free of charge because we will be using such a higher quantity of gas in the new facility than we have been.
Mr. Van
Thank you, Worship. I think with Councillor Mickle absent today, I seem to be doing all the talking, which is kind of unusual. Anyways, Andrew, I want to thank you for putting all this together and for putting up with council for the last year and a half as we've gone through this project, and we've sent you back to the drawing board numerous times, but I think with very good results. The timing, I think, on the city's part with tendering it at this time has turned to be very fortuitous. So again, thank you very much for your patience with us, and good job going forward.
I know that we have had very good success with Wright Construction in our building that we have over here. Have we worked with Dura? I know that Wright is 300,000 more, but we've had such good success with them over in ours, being on time, on budget, which is quite remarkable compared to some of the past contracts that we've dealt with, and it seemed to be a very good company that way. What do we know about Dura?
Dura specializes in this type building, so they are big with the pre-engineered design. They do a lot of car dealerships and buildings similar to this. They actually also have a very good relationship with McGinn Engineering, who we've hired as our design team. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to do a good job for us. Yeah, they have a good history. And they're based out of Regina, so they are somewhat local, and they've made it known to us that they're going to use the local tradespeople as much as possible as well.
Other questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And so that'll go ahead starting July 6th?
Yeah, so I will contact our design team and project managers tomorrow, and then we will start working on the contract and start going through any potential cost savings we may see with Dura Construction. And then hopefully the start of July we get started. We want to get through this as soon as possible so we limit our winter construction as much as we can.
Very good. Well done on your team, too. Thank you. Introduction of bylaws, there are none. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, first thing, Amanda. New business, home occupation, photography business. Go ahead.
Home occupation application 2020-004. An application has been received from Chris Bourgeois to offer photography sessions at the above address, 412 Tom Hart Drive, Lot 4, Block 4, Plan 64R 36228, located in R1 zone in Runway Place. The business will operate Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 4 p.m., and he anticipates 1 to 2 clients per day. This would be considered controversial use as the occupation involves clients being directed to the home throughout the day. Parking in the driveway will be available for the clients. Home-based occupations are permitted in the RFM zone, but are generally deemed controversial, requiring public notification and council review. Neighborhood notices were mailed out on June 2nd, 2020 to all neighbors within 75-meter radius of the home, and no concerns or issues were brought forward. Therefore, staff recommends that council approve the home occupation for 412 Tom Hart Drive, subject to the following conditions: that no person other than the resident of the dwelling unit shall be engaged in the home occupation as an employee or volunteer. No advertisement carrying out the address of the dwelling unit in which the home occupation occurs may be placed in any media. The face of any home business sign on site may not exceed .092 meters squared and must be placed within the inside half of the front yard setback. Home occupations are subject to periodic review to ensure compliance. Owner's driveway shall be used for off-street parking for clients, and a City of Weyburn business license shall be obtained prior to operation of the home occupation.
Do you have a motion, please?
Yes, Your Worship. I'll move that the home occupation application of Chris Bourgeois to operate a photography business at 412 Tom Hart Drive, zoned as R1, be approved with conditions provided.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Home occupation, canine training and dog watching.
Home occupation application 2020-005 for 215 Government Road North. An application has been received from Rhiannon Benjamin to offer canine training and dog watching services at 215 Government Road North, legally described as Lot 49, Block 4, Plan M4926, located in RFM Zone McTaggart Place subdivision. The business will operate Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. with a maximum of 1 client per appointment. The applicant has 3 canines of her own and will only be taking on 1 extra at a time. This home occupation was approved last year. However, the owner has moved to a different location, and therefore the process is required for neighborhood notices to be recirculated. This would be considered a controversial use, as the occupation involves clients being directed to the home throughout the day. Parking in the driveway is available to the clients. Home-based occupations are permitted in the RFM zone, but generally deemed controversial, requiring public notification and council review. Neighborhood notices were mailed out on June 2nd to all neighbors within 75-meter radius of the applicant's home. 2 neighbors did bring forward concerns regarding potential excessive barking. However, the applicant has never received complaints previously with her business, and any complaints or concerns that may arise are enforceable by law. Therefore, staff recommends that council approve the home occupation for 215 Government Road North, subject to the following conditions. No person other than the resident of the dwelling unit shall be engaged in the home occupation as an employee or volunteer. No advertisement carrying out the address of the dwelling unit in which the home occupation occurs may be placed in any media. The face of any home business sign on site shall not exceed .092 meters squared and must be placed within the inside half of the front yard setback. Home occupations are subject to periodic review to ensure compliance. The owner's driveway shall be used for off-street parking for clients. No clients shall be directed to the dwelling after 9 p.m. on any evening. The owner shall be respectful of the noise bylaw and shall be in compliance at all times, and the City of Weyburn business license shall be obtained prior to operation of the home occupation.
Do you have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I'd like to make the motion that the home occupation application of Rhiannon Benjamin to operate a canine training and dog watching service at 215 Government Road North, Lot 49, Block 4, Plan M4926, zoned as RFM, be approved with the conditions provided.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Mr. Richards.
Thanks, Your Worship. Amanda, I was just wondering, do you have all those conditions memorized now?
Most of them. I add a few once in a while.
Yeah, I know
but
you do.
yeah.
You put a few twists in there. I appreciate your homework on this one, that although a couple of neighbors did bring forth some concerns, not necessarily a complaint, that you went back and looked and found that, you know, that the proponent had never had a complaint before. So I feel comfortable with this, but thank you for your homework.
Yep.
No further questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. MEEP grant. Laura, is that you or is that Matthew?
That's me, Your Worship. So Andrew has talked about the vehicle storage facility, and I'd like to do a little background on the MEEP grant. So on May 6th of 2020, the province of Saskatchewan announced the Municipal Economic Enhancement Program, which is MEEP. The program provides per capita funding to municipalities to support investments in infrastructure. So the City of Weyburn received a $1.56 million through that grant. So discussion item for council is that all Saskatchewan municipalities are eligible for the MEEP grant. To be eligible, we must meet the 3 criteria put forth in front of you. So a signed funding agreement, project plan identifying which projects will be funded, and a council resolution supporting the project. So municipalities are required to have all the per capita work done and all the funding done for the projects by March 31st of 2022. So they developed 14 infrastructure project categories to select from. So through review from city administration, we identified the fleet storage building as a priority for this funding, as it fits under the municipally owned buildings and assets infrastructure category. So just a little background on that, 14 categories. When Andrew was talking about before how there is not usually funding for municipal buildings, that is true. And this is something that the province of Saskatchewan did back in 2010 and now again in 2020. And they identified municipal buildings as a key aspect of this within the 14 categories. So for us, the vehicle storage facility is included in the 2020 budget, and the construction is ready for tender and awarding, which just happened tonight. So recommendation from administration is that Weyburn City Council provide the province of Saskatchewan with the required resolution for the MEEP grant.
Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that council authorize the allocation of the Municipal Economic Enhancement Program, MEEP, 2020 funding to finance the approved fleet storage building with an estimated cost of $4,747,425.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Is there, I guess the question, you smile, is there been any movement or any more word on not taxing municipalities, the PST, on this? Because this was, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of funny. They give us a MEEP grant, yet they tax, they claw back a whole bunch on PST back to the province. So they're not really giving us a full grant.
Well, it's a good point, Your Worship. For us, this is needed infrastructure funding. I understand the concerns about the PST, and that's been brought forth by many municipalities back to provincial government for a long time with concerns, especially when they brought that back on the construction projects 3 years ago, I believe. But for us, this is much needed funding. This is a stimulus that the province of Saskatchewan wants to do to get construction going. The amount of funding they provide for this grant is substantial. It's a lot more than what we received the last time we did this grant. I believe we received about $600,000 last time they did this grant. So this is a really good thing from the province of Saskatchewan. And a lot of municipalities can use this. When they talk about 14 categories, some places may buy a grader, right? That fits within one of the 14 categories. So this is a much needed grant for one, economic stimulus, but two, to help us to make sure that we can continue to do our projects that are needed.
Right, and I understand that fully. There's just that I was wondering whether you had heard any word that they were going to drop that PST.
Nothing's been said at this time, Your
building
Worship.
projects of municipalities. So, okay, just hoping, because then we'd get more money. So, but I'm happy with what we are receiving. I'm very thankful for that part. So, all right, question? Any more discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Very good. 2019 financial reserve transfers. Laura?
All right. So I'm glad we're getting all this money. So the 2019 financial statements are substantially complete. We're currently going through the audit, so these figures could change, but I don't see them changing drastically. So we're currently looking at a deficit of almost 9.4 million. So I've broken it down to what this entails. It's, as we talked about a couple months ago, the police overage of $215,000. There was a loss in the utility fund of about $266,000. This was primarily due to we didn't see as much revenue coming in for water and sewer. And I think that's attributed to the new water meters, just being more accurate. There was an overage in the water treatment plant, reservoir, and the First Avenue, and the main replacement projects of $722,000. And when I looked into that, it was under budgeted. It should have been budgeted higher for some of the carryover that didn't occur in 2018, because 2018 actually came in under budget. And so with that project, the city covered a third of the project, and the province and the feds, they each covered a third. So the main the main amount for the overage is due to WRCC. So when we passed the budget, we didn't know if WRCC was going to be a go or not, so it wasn't included. So in 2018, we spent just about 9.1 million on WRCC. So what I'm asking for is usually within the utility fund, any loss would come from the utility reserve, and same with the project. So the project, we only transferred from the reserve to cover what was spent. So this year, or in 2019, we were over budget on it, but in 2018 we were under, so we'll have to cover that overage. So that was 722,000, so that would come from the utility reserve, and it's currently sitting at 4.1 million. With the WRCC, the project, we spent just about 9.1 million in 2019. Most of those funds all came through from our savings and our GICs. So I just wanted to highlight that the funds should come out of our reserves, and I didn't want to just take it out of reserves and not let council know that they would come out. So, because as it sits now with our reserves, the liquidity of our funds can't substantiate what we have in reserves. So we should be taking some of these funds out. We also, I guess I missed, we did see actually a surplus within the general operating fund of 768,000. So that's mostly due to federal tax funding that we got that we didn't budget for. And also we received some extra interest income within that fund. So I'm proposing that the 215,000 for the police deficit, that will come out of the general operating surplus. The utility and the water treatment plant deficits to come out of the utility reserve, and then the WRCC funding to come out of a combination of a surplus and through reserves. And then it ends up that there's about 146,000 that will just leave us in a loss position, unless you want to take more of the MOG reserve, I guess. So it would be the remaining surplus in the general operating of 550,000. The facilities reserve, we have 2.3 million that would go towards this project. The internal loan reserve is at 2.8 million we could take out of. The general government, we could take 2 million out of that reserve, and out of the MOG municipal operating reserve of 1.3 million to get to our 8.4. So going forward to the leisure budget has budgeted for 2020 to contribute 473,000 back into reserves for future payments and for the loan payment that we will have going forward, because we have a loan to cover the remaining portions of WRCC going forward.
Do you have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I'd like to move that the recommendations of the Director of Finance be approved as following. The Weyburn Police Service deficit of 215,000 be funded from the general operations surplus. The utility fund deficit of 266,000 and the water treatment deficit in the amount of 722,000 be funded through the utility general reserve. And the WRCC 2019 deficit in the amount of 8.95 million be funded as following: general operations 550,000, facilities reserve 2.3 million, internal loan reserves 2.8 million, general government reserves 2 million, and municipal operating grant reserves 1.3 million.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Andrew.
Sorry. Thanks, Laura. So when I look at it, we had the police was an operating deficit and the water was an operating deficit, but then our revenues were higher. So actually we had an excess in operating revenue, and our losses were all in the capital end.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which I'm good with, because I've always thought that you know, taking out of reserves for capital is one thing, but not for operating. So
Yeah.
I don't see that as a bad thing.
And it was mostly because we got extra funding through the federal gas tax, and then we got some extra, I think we had about 170,000 extra on interest, so.
Okay, good. All right, so there is, call the question, all in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. All right, we are going into the last part of business is property negotiation. We're going to have to have a motion to go committee at whole, which is going into camera. So can we have a motion, please?
Yeah, Your Worship, I'll make a motion that council move into committee of the whole at 6 p.m. to discuss the particulars of a land acquisition as per section 94.2 of the Cities Act.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
And with that, we will ask the media and everybody else to leave.